Red flag starting on defense. Games will be 70 minutes long. 2:13, half at 7. Tomorrow, their second game of the day is planned to be a mixed quarterfinal. Potential crossover matchup. And with 16 teams, the top 2 teams in each pool will be looking to battle as this red flag D-line gets on the pitch. Rain increasing in intensity here. It had been fairly dry for the observers up until recently, so we'll see how they cope with it. They're out there as well running, standing in this rain. Not necessarily generating the same heat as the players. Feels like they're used to it. They're fairly hardy. Red flag, captained by Katie Wong, Annie Wong, Zalima Mott, and Edward Guo, coached by Alexander Lamb and Jonathan He. As the horn goes, then we have the 70 minutes started up. Force, captained by Caitlin Lusty and Thomas Black. And going into a wide split stack, ISO. And a little bit underthrown with immediate turn. Foul called. Looks to be not contested. As red flag look to start the game with a break. Andrew Ling. Siwa. Wide throw. Julia Zhou just outside the end zone. And the D-line for red flag starts with a break with Edward Guo making it 1 for red flag. And an interesting start to this game. Just a little bit underthrown, but we'll see what Force brings out. They are known to be grindy on defense. So they need an opportunity to get on D. And this rain shower increasing in intensity. If at any point the stream stops or the camera stops moving, it's because I'm running to protect our streaming equipment. Red flag has brought basically 2 D lines out. Speckers. Sadler looking for Speckers. It's a big around. Speckers is going to chase that down. Speckers up line. Lots of room. Lefty backhand. And that's a point by Peter Alusius. 2008 Junior Open Team Canada, plays for Carleton and backdraft as well. As Force hold. Also to note is Just GI in the middle had a critical reset play and then movement to the sideline. If you're a longtime watcher of Ultimate or being on the sideline, the figure most familiar to you is going to be the one wearing the red toque in the middle of your screen. That's Jesse Robertson. He's played on this team for 5 years. And on the team notes, he basically says the godfather of Ultimate. And that's a fairly true statement. Jesse's played on Invictus, GOAT, NADS, Tombstone, and now Force. I had the pleasure of playing with him on Moondoggies in 2010, where we won in Sherbrooke. And at regionals, the look of disappointment he gave me for one of my throws made me a better player, just in the practice I wanted to put in. As Red Flag's offense now faces a zone. Forces zone. And Cup continues to move. There is a call. And if you recall the previous game, Red Flag liked to take a lot of deep shots. This zone so far has not given them a deep option, so they're content to move it forward with 3 handlers. And a melt called as Katie Wong lurks deep for Red Flag. And there's a call. Travel is called. And it'll come back to Peter Yu. And just because it's a travel doesn't mean we can't move our camera. And it's to Neo, and there's a pick call in the stack. And still at the back, Katie Wong unmarked. Or at least their mark is far off. But the Force defenders are paying attention. And there's a call and play. Thomas Black on the mark. No contest. Comes to 0 as Yu throws a lefty backhand scoober over the top to Mika Kurahashi. And it was very difficult to see that. But the defender, Kelsey Dungate, felt like she could have gotten to it. I'm not really hearing many up calls from the sidelines for either team. Feels like over the last couple years, it's been a tough break for everyone. And we're just coming back into it bit by bit. All right, and continued conversation in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we are, as I Am Ultimate, we're happy to bring you this stream. We do cover a lot of our own costs. We are not asking for donations for ourselves. Instead, if you are on iamultimate.com/live, there is a charity that we've linked to, FN Caring, First Nations Caring. Please consider donating to them as part of our wider community. Red Flag in a zone, a junk zone. Oh, and that was a poach off there. And I'm glad there was no contact anywhere, but Red Flag gets D as Siwa over the disc, picks it up, pops it to Andrew Ling, and Ling puts it into the end zone. 2-pass play. Red Flag with another break. And red flag putting their O-line players out on D. Obviously, the D-line must be gassed. I hope the viewers out there understand sarcasm. If you weren't watching the last stream, red flag has quite a few Team Canada U20, U24 players. The team is 2 years old. I was chatting with Andrew Ling between games, and there's a real intent to try and make this team last for quite a while. And as he said, it's a real Vancouver mixed team because they actually practice. And there's an offside call on the pole, or something like that, but there's no offside call. And Caitlin Lusty lays out to get the disc, and the captain there rescues the point as force hold, and that was incredibly impressive. Caitlin laying out full reach as the intended receiver had slipped, and the disc was a little bit overthrown. Caitlin is the oldest Lusty sibling and has played on Team Canada 3 times. 2008 women, 2013 under 23, 2019 mixed, and has played in plenty of names. You'll understand: Tundra, Trainwreck, Max Power, and now Force. Max Power being a team out of Toronto that is comprised of really whomever Chris Lote wants on that team. Tends to be some fairly good players, as well as a few not so great players. Very few not so great players. Last weekend, they participated in the mixed masters game that we streamed in the morning. You can go and check them out. And that game on our channel. This is Ultimate. As the other Lusty on this team, Brandon Lusty, pulls. And Sam Creed now faces the force zone. And that results in a throwaway in the midfield. Felt like a miscommunication. Force. A little bit of a wide field. Looking to reset. High cut. And over the top. I think they're going to have a quick chat about it. Thomas Black was the intended receiver. And as they continue their discussion, you can see the positioning of the Force players. Not much of a stack there, spread out across the field. But we'll have an opportunity after this play, if the disc stays with Thomas. The observer is now going to make the call and says, yes, it is a foul. That was the shoulder touch there that indicated, yes, that Sheila was asked to participate and make the call after the discussion where they were at an impasse. Thomas Black trusting the receiver to look up. Gets the point, and Force make it 3-3. Thomas Black with the assist. Throw to number 12, Carly Muntz. Has played with force since day one and is a part acrobat with her foot block height. Let's see if we get some foot blocks here in this game. But that zone paying dividends. A miss pass in the midfield for force. Somewhat slick conditions now with the field as the rain is making things very slippery for the players. The game now, 3-3. Red flag. You're receiving this disc as goes out of bound. Creed to pick up. The other handlers, number 7, Serena Tam, and number 24, Peter Yu. Still staying in their horizontal setup, looking to overload the deeps, but there is a stoppage of some sort. Unknown what's going on. I think they were counting the number of players on the field. Where I'm as puzzled as to what's going on here as well. So there's a conversation going on currently about the ratio on the pitch. And so based on the points, there's essentially a question as to the gender ratio, what should the gender ratio be, and the matches up that need to happen accordingly. So Cassie Wong comes out and Marcus Young goes in. And they're deciding to bring it back in at the midfield. We will soon find out if that was an advantageous switch or not. And on the line, brings it back for a reset, taking a lot more care of the disc, given the conditions. And it's out of bounds. Unfortunately, that one at that point does sail OB. And force with a chance to break. Sending it deep and just perhaps a little bit too early. That was intended for Jake Leather. And as the mark gets set on, quit spike it, swipe at the disc. You sends it deep. And scored by number 12, Mika Kurahashi. And red flag. Maintain the hold. And so it appears that the pause that was there early on was due to determining what the gender ratio should have been. And a substitution was made, as the intention was, or I think the count was supposed to be 4 men, 3 women, and red flag had played 4 women, 3 men. Rain continuing to come down here. If you give me a moment, I'll return to the stream. As a player, these conditions would not give me much pause to play in. It's a light rain. Yes, it makes things a little bit more greasy. Siwa with the pull. Speckers. And there's a little bit of a poachy D there. And Force playing very much the same style of ultimate as red flag. Make this a 4-4 game. The red flag defender, number 20, Kolafas Mot, saying it was her error. It was very close to a turnover. We're definitely seeing that heads-up play from red flag, where they're, when the disc goes up deep, they all get under it. D-line for Force going out. Thomas Black with the disc, very similar to what we saw from the leftmost is their other captain, Caitlin Lusty. Thomas Black, the other captain in the middle with the disc. Seems to be a zone from the conversation. We're likely to see the cup. Peter Yu picks up the disc to Creed. And an overload on the sideline. Ryan Hoy sends it captain. Kenny Wong beating the deep coverage. Red flag, 5-4. And that's a quick break through the zone. And the flooding of players, there was 3-4 red flag players flooding deep, which means that when that throw went up, it's difficult as the deep D to consider whom you should cover. And as the arc became more apparent, and also the recognition that there was a player behind him, he raced to the disc. The comments that we had on the rosters that we sent out for the teams to fill out indicate that this team, everyone strikes, and that was very apparent on that particular point. As Captain K.P. Wong makes it 5-4. Force now. About to receive the disc. Going to a very important point of this first half. Pick called. Oh, and the disc just bobbles out. It's a second similar play we've seen from Force. An immediate deep strike. And bobbled on that end as well. As the player went to ground. Things are slippery out there. Daniel Hugh brings the disc to the line. Looking for a deep, sends it. This is going to be a nice big battle. Intended receiver Jake Leatherin. Pick called in the middle of the stack. And Kyle Sia set up to deep strike. And Kyle Sia with the point. Makes it 6-4 with the break. Important point ahead of half. Force need to hold this next one. As mentioned, with the shorter games, the recovery time and ability to come back is much more difficult. All right, a little bit more chat activity this week. I think that's because all the players who were here last week in Masters are now online watching the seniors division. The naming here is you have juniors, obviously makes sense, U19 under, then seniors, which is basically anyone. But in order to get to Masters, you have to be 30 for women, 33 for men. And then after that, you have Grandmasters. Specker swings it wide. Sadler back to Speckers. Lusty is deep to Black. Lusty's all over the field. Players just chasing her. But the run through D as Siwa picks it up. Back to Siwa. Pick called in the midfield. Middle of the field, waiting for reset. Ling. Ling just fires across the middle. Very bold decision there to Suzuki. And then another blady sort of throw to number 88, Kyle Sia. And red flag, take half at 7 in this game that goes to 70 minutes. And thank you to Chris Lote and other community members for filling in and responding to chat messages. This has been an interesting first half. Force has definitely been in this game. The score is not necessarily indicative of the play out on the field. Both teams have had their opportunities. And red flag in the last couple points there, well, at least this last one, very patient once they got the actual turn, taking long looks up the field and then just kind of lasering in a pass to any receiver that had their head up. They're very much more static in nature. We're going to take this this break on our end, our 5 minutes, so expect us back in 2 to 3 minutes. And we're back, just dealing with a little bit of interesting condition change. The winds have shifted now to be coming from the east. Of course, this impacts us because our table setup was set up for winds from the west. So we're just going to be taking a quick few minutes to adjust. Next game that we're expecting here on these fields is going to be a women's game between Stella and Fusion. Stella from Ontario, primarily the Ottawa area, and Fusion from Manitoba, primarily Winnipeg. Both powerhouse teams. Wind now coming from left to right. This is shifted. Pretty much the whole day and all last week, it was going right to left, but now it's moving around. And it has picked up a little bit. This wind, of course, helping to clear out the weather, which should be It should stop raining by Tuesday or so. And the pull by Force to red flag. Going to be going to the second half, and I will update the scoreboard accordingly. He moved here confidently up the line. And that disc going to ground. As there's an opportunity for Force to break to start the second half. And layout D by Sam Creed. But there's also a call or an injury call by the disc. It is an injury. Or not, it's a foul call. Peter Yu sending it back to Thomas Black. And not contested, coming in at 0. Oh, and then a miscommunication. And the Force player get her number, getting under the disc, getting the D. An important turn. Black to pick up. D on Force by Rebecca Mesperis. Feels like Force is used to playing that long game. And a travel call. Peter Yu watches the explanation from Thomas Black. It's coming at 0, and all the remaining players are on a vertical stack. And a turn. The wind has shifted. So players normally wanting some float in that direction are not getting it. It's going straight to the ground, and a timeout called to start the second half. Thomas Black giving his team a chance to breathe and strategize on how to get this point, which would make it a 7-5 game. It's a critical point. There's an ask for getting a compass on the stream. There's only so much screen space that we have. Don't know how we'd make that work, but something to think about. There's 20 seconds required for offense to set. Black with the disc coming in at 0. Jake Leatherin in the reset position. And then Carly Muntz as the third handler going into a horizontal stack. Red flag opting to take away the deeps. It's to be a standard host stack play and ground strip. Red flag gets it right back. Ryu. Lower round. Katie Wong sends it to the back corner of the end zone to number 29, Sophia Chan. And coming at a half, red flag, hold, 8-4. And that's a tough turnover right after half. The play was there. The disc was in the hands. It just feels like they're just not lining up on the throws. We've had 3 or 4 of those in this particular game for Force. And it feels like if those had gone the other way, this game would be tied up. As I said, there's not much in it. Red flag, the more vocal of the two teams on the sideline. Force, from time to time, engaging with their team, encouraging them when they make a great play or a recovery on the disc. But both teams now working on adjusting to these conditions. Speckers with the disc. Dungate. Hand blocked on the dump and needed a little bit more separation to get that off. As Tam picks up the disc and almost put it deep, but Lusty was lurking. Pick in the stack will stop the count. And there might be a little bit of discussion as to where that stall count comes down. Mott resects to Xia. And just out of reach for Ignatieff. As Force to Speckers, Lusty. Apologize. And recovered after a tip by Clark. And Lusty, no call after a battle between Mutt and herself. It is certainly a battle between those two in the middle right now. And underthrown as Clark collects it, lasers it down the line. It's just a little bit too low. Every single point is contention. It goes up. We're going to see this as well, but easily taken by Lusty on the under. Another timeout called. And definitely gassed this O-line. Looking to get something going. It's been an interesting start to the second half. The rain is starting to die out. It's barely drizzle right now. "30 seconds until this timeout ends and setup is required." There certainly has been a lot of opportunity. But if you're running this point, and you're coming out of it, there's only two hands you'd want it in to start it off. One is Lusty, who has it, and the other is Speckers, who is first in that vertical stack. And Clark, disc is still in the air and could have been recovered. It's a little bit flat end zone. A lot of motion right now. Got cleaned up really quickly, though. And extremely good movement between the two handlers, back and forth, before it finally lands in the hands of Jasmine Chan. Red flag, break, 9-4. And this game might be getting away from force. We are about 50 minutes into this game. It's about 23 minutes remaining. If Force can string together a few points here, a couple of breaks, it's going to put the pressure on. Red flag. Following this game at 1500, so in about 40 minutes, will be Stella versus Fusion. So stick around for that. Pull from David Tran. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Koji Suzuki. Received by Daniel Hugh. Sends it deep, and immediately multiple players underneath. And that disc throw going into the wind. And curling, and the conditions constantly changing. It's red flag now. Have an ISO stack. And right out of it, send it deep. With Mutz bringing it down. And Edward Guo celebrating even before it had been caught. So definitely a young and self-confident team here, red flag. And they're definitely showing that they deserve that confidence. So 10-4. Flood stack coming from Force, black in the middle, and works well to isolate Davis, and then a turn. It's been difficult for Force to get going on that second or third pass as a deep throw comes out. Not in called. Ryan Hoy brings it back out. Resets to Marcus Jung. And then there will likely be a call here as the players got tripped up. And the disc looks like it's going back with no turn. And that name, once again, Katie Wong with the point, makes it 11-4. Thank you all for joining us today on the chat. 2 more games to go, and we'll close out our day and go and dry off. But 2 extremely important and looking to be closely matched, exciting games with ultimate powerhouses. Next up, we're looking at Stella from Ottawa versus Fusion from Winnipeg. And after that, we're going to get a women's crossover. Unknown who those players are just yet. But if seeding holds, then we're expecting Traffic versus Iris in that matchup. If there's a small upset, because the top 4 in those women's divisions are extremely closely matched, we'll see a different set of teams, but we won't know until the actual time. And gender roles are coming into play here as Katie Wong sprints back onto the field. And gets off the line. And Red Flag have now had 2 occasions, this being the second in this game, where they've had some issues in making sure they have the appropriate mix of players on the field. As Speckers receives it in the middle from Clark. And there's a Pochi zone, diamond zone to Clark in the middle, lays out, misses. End zone called. Red flag now. High Reducing flick, and there's that name again. Katie Wong. Red flag, make it 12. In terms of questions, what's the schedule for tomorrow from the chat? We don't really know what teams will be playing when. We believe it's going to be a women's game, followed by a mixed game, followed by 3 other games, one of which may be an open game, women's game, or a mixed game. But we're looking to bring you the games that matter for the bids to Worlds. Essentially, the games to go. We're going to allow Ultimate Canada to pull that up, perhaps some discussion with them. There has been a link shared in chat by Noah with regards to what teams are playing where. This game, while the scoreline is rather one-sided, it's only really been in the last few points that's happened, where Red Flag has pulled away. Before then, there were plenty of turnovers going both ways. Lamb. Faster. Hand or give and go. Lamb up line. Good cut, good control. Been having a physical battle with our mark, Danielle Hugh. Up to Lamb again. And another layout. That one was hard. End zone. And Lamb really driving that point forward. Winning her one-on-one matchup and going all out on the disc, as those were extremely generous leading throws. So you are watching this on the Ultimate Canada channel right now. You can check out our channel. This is Ultimate. No spaces, no underscores, no hyphens. And if you are watching off of imultimate.com/live, if you scroll down, you'll see the archive on some of those games as well. Point scored by number 66. Farah Kurniawan. They've given me a pronunciation here. I would pronounce it as Kurniawan. Which is actually how it's written. It's just, there's a lot of water on my sheet here as Force pulls. That D-line getting out there. And they're going with a ISO and looking to hike coming out of that ISO. And they're hugging right out of the next step of it. As number 4, Matt Goodkey, scores the final point of that game. Goodkey, having played on Furious, and is also the oldest guy on the team, born in 1990. Makes this game 13-5, finishes it off. We've certainly seen quite a lot from Red Flag in this game. They'll be playing quite confidently. Force, despite the score, have been close in this game. They've had a few key turnovers, perhaps a few areas where it could have been closer and they could have come up with the disc. But certainly adjustments will be made going into the next game. We're going to take a bit of a break, but in 25 minutes, we're going to start our stream prep for probably one of the games that we've been most excited for, I've been most excited for, is Stella versus Fusion. I had the opportunity to stream Stello last week. Many of those players will be on this team and taking the field. And of course, looking forward to the final game, women's game of the day as well. Thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned and hope you've enjoyed the coverage. And if you are leaving at this point, please be sure to tune in tomorrow. We have 5 more games. Theo Wan will likely be here and will, of course, with the additional help, be able to produce a slightly better quality stream, although you really have to measure Theo's commentary to see if it's worth it or not.